Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Our guest this morning is Dr. Tunji Abayomi, constitutional lawyer, and he is joining us from our Abuja studio. Good morning to you, Dr. Abayomi.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir, for making the time available. Okay, I thought we'd look at some legal, it's a specialized area, legalisms and all of that. And first of all, a committee has been inaugurated by the Attorney General of the Federation as it concerns memoranda of understanding between Nigeria and whoever, actually. I think this has to do with international trade and all of that. It's called the Legal Audit Committee, and it's to audit agreements and MOUs on accredited gas development projects. Well, it will come to mind that the P&ID case, which was embarrassing, and thankfully Nigeria came out of that clean. But maybe this is as good a time as any to talk about the importance of these kind of audits. And is it that they weren't in place before? Because the law itself is a sufficient minefield. But when it comes to memoranda of understanding, how far away are those from the law? In other words, I'm really trying to understand what is the importance of committees like this?
Well, obviously, the nation has gone through a number of embarrassing experiences. The P&ID case is just one of the many challenges that the nation faces, largely because of inappropriate or just very limited attention to international treaties, MOUs, and agreements. There are quite a number of them. I think a while ago, a few years ago, the National Assembly held a hearing on arbitration agreements,
yes,
treaties, and so on and so forth. And there are quite a number of them. So I believe what the Attorney General is doing is now looking at another major area of commercial interest to Nigeria, and that is the gas sector, to avoid the landmine that has characterized understandings with regard to the oil sector. I believe this is essential to do, but perhaps a more interesting and vital, in my view, effort that the Attorney General should do is to strengthen the commercial sector of the Federal Ministry of Justice. What he has done now is largely ad hoc, in the sense that they have just, I think they have a few weeks to present their 3 months to present their report. The work they are expected to do is obviously large in terms of a review and auditing of most of these agreements and understandings. But after the job is done, then where do we go as a nation? I think these are the paramount issues that should preoccupy the Attorney General of the Federation.
Is it that the law, there are areas, does the law create gaps, so to speak, that projects such as this are now meant to sort of plug? Because the law can be quite comprehensive. In fact, so much so in its quest to mop up most possibilities, if not all possibilities, it often gets, the language of it gets contorted to those who are not legally inclined or of legal mind. So, in spite of the great attempts of the law to encompass all that is relevant to a subject matter, does this suggest that there will still be gaps, and so we need, audit committees for MOUs? Because this is about MOUs. And how much of a difference is there between a memoranda of understanding and a law?
Well, the position of the law is that an MOU is not an agreement, but an intention to enter into an agreement. But it is a foundation of a foundation for understanding, so to say, to enter into some form of agreement. That's what the law is. Basically, an MOU is not enforceable as it is, but is a representation that a party can justly rely upon under the law. So we have quite a number of MOUs, binding nations, and of course we also have commercial agreements. Now, this is a very serious area because if, for example, you look at the P&ID case,
yes,
award against Nigeria was running into over $6 billion. That will show you the essentiality of these commercial agreements. They can really wind up a nation and embarrass any nation, the interest of any nation. Now, in terms of gap, the truth of the matter is that every agreement, if not well constructed and well written out, will leave a gap for any party when there is disagreement. In the case of Nigeria, we are basically, prospecting for wealth and money to come to the nation, either by way of selling our products, by way of agreements. And then the other complication we have is that because government changes in our country, the tendency of succeeding governments is to simply abandon existing understandings instead of looking at them and working with them. So out of this negligence, the nation runs into landmines. But
okay,
a state government is not an entity in international law. You go against the federal government itself. So there's a need for collaboration, understanding, and even training and establishment of a very sound commercial department in most of the ministries of justice, MOJs, in our country.
Because another thing that I think is related with this subject matter is that quite a number of times when we have these disagreements, take for instance the P&ID case that you just mentioned, oftentimes the courts, we find ourselves, Nigeria, where we are an interested party, but this matter is not decided in a Nigerian court. It's decided in a court abroad. Again, so this further complicates the whole matter. Again, we have had situations, although I imagine it's not in the commercial area, where our courts have, for instance, said a matter is decided in a certain way, and then the same matter is presented before a foreign court, and it is dealt with differently. Yeah. And indeed, if there are sanctions, sanctions have been imposed according to the agreements in that foreign court. And Nigeria can't get up and say, hang on, no, that's not what we decided. This is our case. How does all of this work?
Well, I think commercial agreements of the nature we're talking about, especially when they are entered into with regard to our country, faces two major challenges of international groups, commercial bodies, is that they cannot find true justice in our courts. There is a need, and this is the work that I believe the Federal Attorney General needs to do with the head of the judiciary. There is a need to do a whole lot about our judiciary. Today, Nigerian judiciary is very corrupt and is compounded by basically three problems, two of which are brought on it by politicians. Corruption through money influence, corruption through personality influence and position interest, and of course, a lot of competence because of the appointing processes. In the past, judges were appointed according to the distinction, the merit. You look at their background, how well have they done in their understanding and knowledge of law? All of that have been defeated in our time. Then you have the corruption of money. I believe in Nigeria today, you can barely find more than 5% of our judiciary, of judges, who can take an oath before their God and say that they haven't been influenced by money or by position or by some other interests. So, when you are entering a commercial agreement and you see a nation where the judiciary is so corrupt, nobody wants to bring its arbitration or conflict to that nation. That's the first thing. The second point is also in the drafting of the agreement. We need good lawyers who are vast in understanding of the intricacies and delicacies of international agreement, where, for example, many of them would rather go to international arbitration where we have very little control in terms of, even representation, So that's another problem. So we have this problem of drafting, which is a problem of knowledge-based, and we also have the problem of the defeat of the judicial reputation by the perception that our judiciary is very corrupt and very subject to influence.
Which brings us to the matter of the legal. If anybody's wondering, what is the legal standing of Nigeria in international fora? Because you've just said that, look, of course, the departments of justice, the ministries of justice, and the judiciary will be those things that they'll be looking at in order to determine, as we are putting it, the legal standing of Nigeria. A country does want its reputation not to be tainted, not to be maligned. But you've just said what is also another subject of conversation locally, the corruption of the entire judicial system. Right now, as we are speaking, some judges are being sanctioned for all sorts of dishonest practices. So there's all of that. So when we come to a matter of looking at the international standing of Nigeria, I wonder how well you think we stand. But hold on a moment, sir, because a call has come in. Reverend Dominic has called in. Let's take on board Reverend Dominic's comments. Good morning, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Chief Yori. Good morning, Dr. Abel. My organic top. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah. So the issue of judiciary here has become the worst Nigeria is facing these days. And I can give you an example. I'm from Imo State. For over 3 years, I've been to that state as, let's say, a man like a fugitive in his own nation. I will sneak into Imo State and I will sneak out. Why? The problem is the root of judiciary. Since the judiciary did what they did 4 years ago in Imo State, and we have a new government, and I don't want to mention, and they came. So the people look at that government as not their own. Let me be frank to you. And we are in Nigeria, we want to correct it. I'm a pastor. They called the governor of Imo State today, Supreme Court governor. You know how that matter went through. That a man who was fought on examination become forced overnight. As long as we have this kind of judiciary, sir, this is why we will have a contract in Nigeria. The one that happened in Ogun State. Somebody signed a contract in Nigeria. I have a little idea of law. You sign a contract in Nigeria, you take the investigation in London, and the London court will take that investigation. Why? Because if you bring that investigation to Nigeria, there will be no good sense of judgment. What I'm trying to say here is not judiciary is corrupt, sir. With due respect, you are very right. But as long as we don't heal our politicians who take money to judges, who live in Nigeria, but me today, I don't know where I belong to, whether I'm poor or average or rich. I can't buy fuel. As a pastor, I don't even know how I can. If you bring me 1 million naira today, and I will say as a pastor, I won't take it. Because my children is in school, I can't buy fuel, I can't take care of myself. And these judges are Nigerians. Their children go to school, they buy the same fuel, they live in their house. As long as politicians are bringing money to them, our judiciary will be this way. Last thing, sir, look at River State. Even an illiterate, is it not insulting the kind of judgment you have seen in River State off and on? Somebody will go to a state court in River State and get a judgment. He will run down to Abuja, a matter in River State, and get another judgment. And we are in this mess. I'm pleading because I followed you in Nadeko when we were sleeping in the bush. That people who do not fight with us should not spoil this democracy. And they are politicians. I don't accuse judiciary more of it. I accuse the politicians who take this money to them. God bless you, sir. And God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic, for that commentary. Okay.
Yeah. So what? Okay.
No, did you want to, if you wanted to come back on that, sir, because I wanted to pursue.
Yes, I wanted, yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
You can go ahead. Maybe, okay, what I wanted to say is the point he's raising, the effect on commercial relationship with the world is so profound, because nobody wants to lose the money, it's money, unjustly. That's really the problem. I think, I'm not even sure our nation knows the terrible effect of the level of corruption that is in the judiciary. Those of us that are practicing law, sometimes when we listen to a judgment, particularly in the lower courts, it just shocks your conscience. It shocks your conscience. I was before a judge who said to me I should have come to see him for the purposes of enforcement, and I said no, I have never gone to see a judge. This is the type of you trade justice, you know, and then the issue of it was Ambassador Maitama Sule, the late Ambassador Maitama Sule, the former UN representative of Nigeria, when he was visiting Professor Nwabueze, who said a nation can absorb a lot of corruption, but when the judiciary of a nation becomes corrupt, like the Nigerian judiciary, and this is quite a number of years ago, the nation is imperiled. And the situation today is considerably worse than when he spoke, at least over 7 years ago. So how do you then expect anybody to accept that resolution of conflict, which must emerge? Even our constitution recognizes that conflicts between parties, between institutions, must come to the court. How do you expect any serious world body or commercial or company, international company, to believe that it can bring its affairs under the authority of the judicial system that is perceived as very, very corrupt. These are the issues, the challenges that face Nigeria. When the people themselves have no faith that they can go to court and get simple justice. In this nation today, if you have money, you can commit murder and get away with it. That's the tragedy of Nigerian nation.
Wow. Yes, indeed. Did I understand you clearly when you said at the top of the program that MOUs, on the one hand, are not necessarily enforceable the way law is? Did I hear that correctly? Did I understand it?
That's correct. That's correct. MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that's what MOU is. Yes. It's just an understanding to enter into an agreement. In other words, something that's a platform that lays the foundation. You cannot go to court and insist that it has to be enforced by binding order. A memorandum of understanding is just an understanding to enter into an agreement. It is different from, for example, an agreement, simpliciter.
Okay. And so I'm trying to understand, therefore, the import or the importance of the Attorney General's office constituting this committee to audit agreements and MOUs. Yes. I can imagine.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir. To tell a non-legally minded person.
As you can see, you can also appreciate the Attorney General didn't limit it just to MOU. I think he understands that MOU is not an agreement. He says MOU agreement. So you can enter into an MOU, for example, to establish a company. It's just an understanding that you are going, at a point, you have agreed to register or establish a company,
Yes.
But, for example, if, you refuse to cooperate for the registration or incorporation of that company, can someone go to court and say that, look, we entered the memorandum to go register a company? No, you cannot. Or to get an enforceable order to compel the incorporation of that company. That's not possible under an MOU. I think basically it's a gentleman's agreement to further take the next step. So MOU agreement is enforceable by binding order of court, but an MOU cannot.
Okay. Good morning, Henry, in Port Harcourt. Okay. I just lost Henry in Port Harcourt there. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take a break now. Dr. Abayomi, we'll be right back to continue with this conversation. Please stay with us.
Yes, thank you.
Every weekday on Business Nigeria, we uncover the secrets of the financial world.
We analyze the stock market, shares, bonds, and the thrilling world of cryptocurrency.
Facts matter. Our team dives deep to separate fact from popular opinion.
We simplify complex government policies as it impacts your everyday life, helping you navigate the ever-changing financial landscape.
Watch Business Nigeria every weekday at 2 p.m. only on TVC News. First with breaking news.
Good morning, Marina Station and all the passengers. Efficient, it's comfortable.
This development will go a long way in reducing congestion and emission.
The trains are a long-term solution to Lagos traffic challenges.
This is where we take the final decisions on policies, programs of government. I will have to ensure that, the narration of Lagos as a PLC is taken very, very seriously.
This is a major pedestrian bridge linking Oyingo here to Apapa Road. over there.
With this overpass, we are providing what we call permanent solutions.
This place is one of the most dangerous areas at the biosecurity environment.
This can go into the news and every crimes of your neighborhood.
Our goal is to remain as Africa's model megacity, to move our GDP from the 5-6 position to the 3rd position, and we believe is achievable with all the commitments we have.
Explore the city of Lagos, where dreams are made and possibilities are endless. Amadedoja Salamadeniyi. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did they start?
TVC News. First with breaking news.
The TVC News at 7 and the TVC News at 10 are not like any other news broadcast.
It's the big news hour, the hour for the big breaking stories.
We've got some of the best reporters on the field,
taking you through as it happens.
Okay, welcome back. And just to say that, as we do from time to time, to say that on our terrestrial feed, we're cutting over to the inauguration of Community Development Program in Katsina. This has been undertaken by the governor. That's what we'll be seeing now. Okay, but our viewers on the program that we are still on can, continue to see us, especially if they, switch to our YouTube channel, and viewers in the diaspora will be able to continue to see us and hear us. Dr. Abayomi, constitutional lawyer, remains in our Abuja studio. Thank you very much, Dr. Abayomi, for staying with us. Okay. And, we have Sunny Adenuga is on the line calling out of, well, normally he calls from the UK, but I understand he's in Abuja. Good morning to you, Sunny.
Now.
Good morning, Sunny. Sunny is
chairman. And good morning to Dr. Abayomi.
Good morning, sir.
Thanks, thanks for the insight this morning.
We welcome you to Abuja.
Thank you, sir. I always enjoy your insights on the legal matters, and I always look forward to having to listen to you. And just like this morning, you've done really well again. Now, but I want to ask, maybe from your experience, what can be done to address these issues regarding corruption in judiciary? Of course, you highlighted one of the key issues there about the quality of appointments that have been made over years, and that clearly shows how we got here. But within today's reality, from your experience, maybe you could enlighten us what could be done, because especially for a few of us who are getting interested in politics and trying to make changes, but it's also important to listen to experts like you so that we can inform some of the things. Because I will tell you, we had a case in court recently, and the case dragged on for so long. It took me a lot of reluctance to agree to write a petition to the National Judiciary Council, and I kept questioning, why should things get to this point? So it's frustrating, even for those of us who are budding politicians, and I know many young Nigerians who probably listening to me as well, they may feel that sense of same frustration. But from your experience, what can we do differently? Thank you. That's my question today, and I will take time to listen to you.
Thank you very much.
That's a very good question. But it's a question that cannot get easy solution or easy proposition. I have said, I think, in this station, that corruption in Nigeria is like a wasting disease. At the early stages, it's easy, it's difficult to detect, but easy to cure. We are now at the late stages. It's like cancer. Now it is easy to detect, but difficult to kill. It has metastasized. If we look at our nation today, if we go, for example, to the Customs Department, you want to import some products into your own country, ideally you are required to pay, let us say, for example, 10 million. Customs will tell you, you pay 5 million to government, pay us 3 million, and then you get away. This level of corruption has been there for years. Nobody appears to be able to do anything about it. The nation's development is imperiled because in spite of its wealth, is inundated like a Lilliput. Now, if you go to the police, if you don't have money, regardless of whether you have right, you can't do anything. I have even present example where some land grabbers, in spite of all the documents I have, even in my own state, I can't get police to do anything. They won't, unless you have money to get. And I'm not going to give anybody any money to do his job. So if you decide not to, then of course, your right cannot be protected. If you now go into politics, if you don't give them money, they won't vote. So you can see the complication. How do we then deal with it? You now look at study, I think it's Niccolo Machiavelli who said, study the lives of those who have gone before, see where they succeeded or failed. In the same manner, you study other nations and see how things were changed. A disorder that we have now used to be in Turkey, but today things are very different and organized, and it is because of leadership. So if we now have leadership, and how do you get the leadership that is determined to transform Nigeria, particularly to deal with corruption? Because the greatest tragedy of this nation is underdevelopment, is low rating, is neurosis, is corruption, public corruption. What I'm talking about, the people in leadership, in government, in public institutions, they are the people that underdevelop Nigeria. So you need a leader who is not interested merely in the badge of office, but the burden of leadership. And the people will have to make up their mind what nation they want and what leaders they wish to have.
Dr. Abayomi, I beg your pardon, sir. Okay, let me bring on Prince. Thank you very much for holding on. Prince in Abuja. Go ahead now, please.
Good morning, Chief Yori, and good morning to your guests.
Good morning, sir.
Just the way the last caller has said, it's always good to hear his points in regards to issues that deals with law. And we're really learning from him a lot, and we appreciate his time in the studio. I would like to talk about these issues we're discussing today from my own standpoint, which goes a long way the appointment of various judges in our various courts. Because, in appointing this judge, I, for one, as an individual, while growing up, I initially wanted to be a lawyer. And in my little knowledge of law, I understand the fact that for every appointment of judges, it passes through a process. Both appointments, sacking of each judges in the various courts must come from the legal judicial council that appoints and also fires judges. But we've seen cases where we have political interference in the appointment of judges and also in the sacking of judges. Yes. And that doesn't all go well for us as citizens, which tend to look at law or the lawyers or the court itself as the common hope of the hope of the common man. So thank God we have someone who is learned, who has a lot of experience to actually point us in the right direction of how to go to actually correct these abnormalities that comes across the appointment and the sacking of judges. Because if we have to get it right from that point, we'll be able to address, if not 100%, 50% of the issues that cut across corruption in our legal system. Another one is for citizens like us who might have had run-ins with the law and who've had evidence of judges who have involved themselves in corruption. How do we go about giving out those information to be able to hold these judges accountable? I, for one, as an individual, have had a case in court, and the individual posted to me that this is not the first time they are taking people to court. The judge is on their payroll. The judge can definitely do what they want, and at the end of the day, they get justice for it. And I have it on record. Or how do we even go to even actually get this? Because the judge is still get it tomorrow. The case went in their favor because they have the money, they have the judges.
Okay.
So how do we correct those abnormalities? Because it is one too many. This is just my own case. A lot of cases like that. A lot of Nigerians that they don't have the money, they don't have the power to actually fight this individual because the judges are in their pockets, and it doesn't augur well for our society. We should have a situation where, as common man, we can hold on to our court and say, yes, this court are there to actually protect the rights of every citizen of this country. Thank you very much as I listen to you.
Thank you, Prince. And Dr. Abayomi, let me slip in an inquiry I have that might be related to this, which is that does the Chief Justice of the Federation have any impact on the National Judicial Council? In other words, does it depend on who or the type of Chief Justice that we have as the chairman of the Judicial Council?
Yes, yes. He is the Chief Justice of the Federation, is the chairman. He basically presides over most judicial bodies. And she has a lot of influence. But, you know, at the level in which the Chief Justice is presiding, the process has gone through certain stages. So when it gets to the Chief Justice, how much can she really do or he really do as an individual? That's one of the problems we have. There is a need to decentralize most of these institutions. There is also a need for the people to have greater influence in monitoring corruption. I do not believe we're going to improve on it. And this is the greatest injury, the greatest wound that this nation faces. We're not going to improve on this nation until our people make the struggle against corruption a national preoccupation. I'm talking of the people. Because corruption is largely propelled by the people in government and public institutions who are put there to work for the people, but they end up working for themselves to the detriment of the nation. So there is a need for a bastion. The people need to raise a bastion against it as a people. It's not going to come through government institutions. You are well aware that even EFCC and all these bodies are tagged for corruption. You know what I mean? Now, the problem obviously is compounded by poverty. But the funny thing is that it is not even the poor that is corrupt or that corrupts everything. It's usually the rich and the powerful and the wealthy. So the people, the ordinary people, must begin to fashion some kind of systems in which they must resist, they must rise against this tragedy, which actually is the central diminishing problem that this nation has. There's no reason why this nation should not be one of the greatest nations in the world. But because of leadership betrayal, because of the corruption, because of failures of public institutions, you have a situation where people that are placed there, they see it as personal business instead of the honor and the privilege. I think it was Justice Sanusi, Chief Sanusi, the former central bank Governor Joseph Sanusi, when I visited him, and he told me, Tunji, you see, when we are here in this position, we must be contented to make others rich and derive our wealth from the honor of service in this position. Where are the leaders today? When you don't have leaders that are determined to make a nation great, like we have among our politicians, they are all interested to make themselves great instead of making a nation great. The nation will not rise, will not become anything. We will down below, and nobody will have interest in it.
You know, we were talking, among other things, about the NJC, and I noticed that they have their work cut out for them. Only recently, we heard that the NJC has dismissed 4 petitions against Justice Peter Odo Lifu of the Federal High Court in Abuja. These were grievous accusations that were brought against him by politicians, essentially. And I think among their findings, they found that, look, number one, they're all unsubstantiated because when apparently they invited them to appear before them, the complainants, or the accusers did not show. And they determined that, look, in this case, this is a bad call. So on the one hand, there are people that are criticizing the NJC, but on the other hand, they are also, they have their work cut out for them, trying to sift between spurious complaints and all that kind of a thing. It's almost as if you don't envy anybody who is a member of that NJC.
Well, the first thing, let us also understand something. The whole process of monitoring the judiciary needs to be liberalized. You go through so many process difficulty of finding a petition against a judge who has corrupted himself. Moreover, in my view, it shouldn't also depend on the petitioner. There should be systems within this judiciary by which these things should be monitored, either by monitoring their accounts, their expenditures, their way of life, or even planting agents within courts. All of these are systems, systematized ways of monitoring the whole, even though the level of corruption within the judiciary of Nigeria, I mean, we are in a problem, serious problem. When the judiciary becomes as corrupt, almost as corrupt as the police system, what are we talking about? So there's a lot of thinking. If it is necessary, there's a need for a national conference on how to deal with corruption within the judiciary. Because I'm saying this because, okay, other departments can be corrupt. Like Meta Masuli said, when the judiciary of a nation becomes as corrupt as that of Nigeria, the nation is imperiled. And what we are seeing in international commercial relationship is part of the problem of this nation. I mean, you have corrupt people who cannot be sent to jail in Nigeria. When they get abroad, they are sent to jail because nobody is above the law. In our nation, the law is meant for the ordinary people, the weak, the feeble, the vulnerable. The powerful is above the law. He can do whatever he likes. And yet, he is the one, really, that should be controlled by the law. Because it is power that you need to control. It is influence that you need to control. It is money that you need to control in order to build a nation.
So this is the problem that we have. Contrary to teachings, it's elementary, even rudimentary, that nobody is above the law. That might be the way to get top marks if you were to write that in an exam answer. But people are saying that that is only as far as the paper is concerned, that in practical reality, it is far from that. And as the points you are making, sir, that the judiciary itself, I think just the other day, a lot of people might have been shocked by the NJC sanctioning some judges, a judge, for being dishonest about his age. So it goes back to what kind of people, constitute the NJC, and what kind of justice or balance of justice can you expect? However, I'm sure I've heard you say that nobody is saying that all of the judicial officers are corrupt, but perhaps we don't have the critical mass that more than most, more than many more people are of the right caliber in that esteemed setup for us to be able to continue work at pace as if everything was okay. But it is far from okay. We are just. It would appear, at least it would. I would stick my neck out and say that we are managing. Sometimes it goes right, sometimes it doesn't go right. But we can't go by the book is the tragedy of this whole situation. That the law is the law. It is written. What do you want to be interpreted? You shall not steal. What other interpretation are you looking for? It doesn't work like that here, unfortunately.
Yes. It's a complex matter, Mr. Yori. For example, when a judge is corrupt and he gives or she gives a corrupt judgment, it is still justice, perceivably. Yes. I mean, you can imagine the tragedy for the people. You go to a court, you are seeking justice, and the justice is merchandised by a judge. But he now decides against you because of either influence or money, pollution. Then you now have justice perceivably in your hand. I mean, I have seen a client weeping in court. Can't believe the judgment that a judge will give. I mean, the thing is so serious. How do they expect any nation? One of the most essential parts, especially in any nation, or even in dictatorial nation, nations governed by dictators, the judiciary, because there will be conflict, is expected to be above board. But look at the nation, a nation. So we need to even go beyond monitoring by the NJC. The people must rise up to monitor its judiciary, monitor its police system, monitor its custom. The people need to rise up to build a new nation that works for the peoples of Nigeria.
Okay, well, Dr. Tunji Abayomi, I want to thank you very, very much, sir, for making time for us. Dr. Tunji Abayomi is a constitutional lawyer, and he's reaching us from our Abuja studio this morning. Thank you very much, Dr. Abayomi, for coming on our program today.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm managing my old age. We hope that this nation will be better. Thank you.
Okay, then. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Iyori Folari. Bye-bye for now.